Hey everyone, Harbz here, back again, going to be reviewing Week 8 on Draftkings. It was a really interesting week. I thought a lot of my plays coming in were very strong, and it ended up working out that way. Honestly, had my biggest sweat ever, I think, going into the Green Bay and Los Angeles Rams game. It didn't end up working out. It wasn't any particular lineup or anything. I just had basically everyone stacked in that game in a bunch of different ways, and my core around it had hit with that being James Conner, Tyler Boyd, and I had the Steelers defense everywhere. They were chalk, so I had to eat it, as well as Jared Goff. He was my highest owned quarterback, and Philip Lindsay. Kareem Hunt did okay, so he wouldn't kill you. And other than that, my tight end position was probably my biggest weakness in the week. But let's jump right into cash. I'll explain a bit more about that tournament teams later. So I chose to go Goff and cash because I thought the Packers and Rams game was going to shoot out, and at 6,000, his price was extremely affordable. I thought Rodgers was fine as well, but ended up needing the salary, and I thought Goff was fine, especially on a team where it wasn't going to play Gurley. And that was one of the big decisions you had in cash this week, was whether you're going to play Gurley or not. I thought he was in a fine spot, but I honestly prefer the Rams passing game. I thought there was a chance the Packers would have the lead, and obviously that did end up happening. But I also thought even if they didn't, Gurley has been getting an absurd amount of touchdowns, and sure, he gets all the red zone work, all the work inside the 5. I mean, if you look up his touches inside the 5 versus like other running backs touches just inside the red zone, it's crazy. He's like beating him out by a lot, but at his price point, I thought it was just fine to not use him, and I didn't think he was going to be insanely popular where he would kill you if you didn't use him. Obviously, he has insane 50-point upside, and him not scoring at the end there was pretty huge, but I'm fine with the process decision not to use Gurley because there were such other strong plays at running back this week. It was just pretty wide open. I felt fine not using him. So instead of Gurley, I decided to go with James Conner, Kareem Hunt, and on this team, Kerryon Johnson. I ended up rolling out 2 cash teams. In 50-50s and double-ups, I used Kerryon, and in head-to-heads, I used Philip Lindsay. I thought the projections were really close. I ended up playing more head-to-heads, so I had more Lindsay in cash, but I thought Kerryon was fine. The projections were close, so I did that. I had more Lindsay, but they both did very well. It was like a 5-point difference, so it ended up making a huge difference because the double-ups all cashed and the 50-50s all cashed, and it helped me in head-to-heads having Lindsay. So anyway, James Conner, I thought it was the clear play. Cleveland, just a great matchup to target. Through the first half, it didn't look great, but he really turned it on in the second half. He had so many all-purpose yards. He really was in a great spot. He honestly could have scored another touchdown if the Steelers had used better clock management with their timeouts. So it put him in an opportunity where they had to throw the ball on a basically the 2-yard line, 1-yard line, and they threw to Antonio Brown for the touchdown on the screen because they had no timeouts. But he could have had an even bigger day than he had. I mean, 41.2, obviously, just a stone nuts for his price at 7,500. Kareem Hunt, the thought process was basically the same. I thought the matchup was amazing versus Denver. I thought Casey was going to score a bunch at home. Thought they were going to be leading. He ended up getting there on a crazy run where he hurdled someone, which was great, but I think the process was completely fine here. I think it was a great play. I think a lot of time he'll end up outscoring this, so it was fine. And then Kerryon Johnson, him and Lindsay were basically amazing plays. Both were at home. Lindsay had a better matchup. Kerryon has the better talent, in my opinion, even though Lindsay's gaining like 5.9 yards per carry on average, like second in the league or something, which is crazy. And both projected for similar pass game roles. Obviously, Kerryon loses goal line work to Blunt, but if he scores, he's a smash, and Lindsay obviously gets all his goal line work, and he ended up scoring, so that was good with Royce Freeman out. So I thought those were the running backs to consider from. You could have considered Mixon, but I was on Tyler Boyd, so I wasn't going to do that. And yeah, Gurley is basically it, the running back position. So let's talk about Tyler Boyd a bit. He had the nut matchup against Tampa Bay, who allows a ton of points over the middle of the field. And obviously AJ Green was in a good spot too. But Tyler Boyd, I honestly think I like him better in this offense than AJ Green. AJ Green obviously still has monster upside, but I prefer more in tournaments. I think Tyler Boyd's honestly a safer play at this point than he is. And 6,700, I mean, that's cheap for his role. I mean, if you're just concerned about these 5.7, 8.4 spots that are duds, I mean, you can be concerned about those, sure, but I just think the matchup set up so well for him. And honestly, with the lack of weapons after injuries for the Bengals. I thought he was just in the nuttiest spot at wide receiver. And wide receiver is a pretty tough position this week, so definitely wanted to get him in. Ended up going Martavis Bryant. I'm fine with this. The reporting said he was going to be a starter. He ended up playing like 7 or 8 snaps, so he's going to get a 0 when that happens. He was 25.8% owned. I mean, that just happens sometimes. It's frustrating in the NFL where everything's so well reported, but not much you can do there. Thought he was a fine play at 3,700, even in a less than ideal matchup against the Colts because they haven't been allowing anything really deep, but I thought he was fine. Ended up getting a 0. Happens. Robert Woods, I thought not playing Gurley, and I wanted to stack with Goff. He's the number 1 wide receiver. Cooper Kupp out. Going to be playing the slot. I thought he had great touchdown upside, and Green Bay is not a stellar defense. They're okay, and the Rams are at home. Green Bay has to travel out there. They did have a longer rest because they played, not a bye, they played on the Thursday night game against the 49ers, so that was a bit of a concern, but I thought he was in a great spot. Ended up getting 12. I mean, he had so much more potential in this game. The Rams, I was not happy with how McVay attacked the game, to be honest with you. And I think he made a mistake at the end, just kicking the field goal, just running Gurley. I think Aaron Rodgers would have won the Packers the game, to be honest, if Ty Montgomery doesn't come out of the end zone and fumble. I was a bit concerned about how McVay managed into that game. And I think it was mistakes on his part, to be honest. But who am I to be telling one of the best coaches in the NFL, if not the best, along with Bill Belichick, what he should be doing? So let's move on. I got 12 points. I thought, if Josh Reynolds doesn't score 2 touchdowns, I think Robert Woods is a great candidate too. I had a ton of Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks this week. A little bit of Reynolds, not that much. David Njoku at tight end. Pittsburgh filters everything to the middle of the field and the tight end spot. Njoku getting a solid amount of targets from Mayfield. It's a bit of a concern that Mayfield's very inaccurate, but seeing with 0 targets is kind of crazy. I have no idea what happened here. I think it's just an anomaly, but I'm going to go back and watch the film. O.J. Howard was another solid play here. He was cheaper. I think if I was remaking the team again, I think it definitely deserves consideration for O.J. Howard at the tight end spot than upgrading Martavis, but I really think I prefer this build anyway, so that's fine. James Conner, I was locking him in everywhere. He's my highest owned running back in the week for a good reason. Just a nutty matchup against Cleveland. Just look at the advanced statistics about what Cleveland's allowing to running backs, and then I expected Pittsburgh to be leading this game and him to draw the targets. Imagine Le'Veon Bell in this matchup, and then you have James Conner, 7,500. I'm not saying James Conner is Le'Veon Bell, but I'm saying he's a very, very talented running back, and he got a great matchup for 7,500. And the Steelers D, the chalk of the week, 2,300, way underpriced. Also get to pair him with James Conner, and Mayfield's been throwing a lot of picks. So here's the head-to-head team. The only difference was using Philip Lindsay. And I thought head-to-heads were a little interesting this week. They came down to a lot of 2v2s, 3v3s, which that's what they're going to come down to in a lot of times when there's a week with a lot of chalk like this at running back and stuff. So I thought it was interesting. Goff was actually one of the lower-owned QBs, so I'm surprised this guy played him. But that just shows a random head-to-head. And then on to the Tiers Wildcat, like I review every week. Ended up winning it this week, which was nice. I swapped off of Mahomes right before lock to get Aaron Rodgers because I wanted the correlation between QB1s with Rodgers and Goff. And it ended up costing me across the board a lot of money because I had this team in every single contest, and it was almost the exact stone nuts. For it to be that, it would have had to have Mahomes in Tier 1, which I had before, and then it would need to have, I believe, Thielen in Tier 3, and then in Tier 5, I believe it had to have, Stephon Diggs, and then in Tier 6, you need Marlon Mack. He outscored Boyd by about 0.3. Other than that, it was basically the complete nuts. He was getting Adrian Peterson, who had a lot of tournament exposure too, which was nice. I thought the Giants were a good matchup for him. I also thought Washington scores all their touchdowns essentially using their running backs. It's kind of crazy. They don't want to throw to their wide receivers or Jordan Reed, which is weird, but they essentially use Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson all the time, and he ended up having a huge game, which was nice, and you definitely needed him in Tier 8 to have a chance in tiers and honestly use him in regular tournaments, and he smashed. So anyway, on to the Millie Maker. Ended up breaking even in this, had 25 teams. Could have been an insane week because I stacked the Rams game every which way. with my core going off around it, with having James Conner, Adrian Peterson. Kareem Hunt was fine. He didn't kill you. Obviously, prefer a better play there, but that was fine. Tyler Boyd. And then this team had Vance, who was all right in the Steelers. Basically, Robert Woods and Randall Cobb had a ton of them everywhere. And if they had the games they could have had, especially Cobb at 2.2%, it could have been an insanely huge week for me because I believe the winner had, 242. So it could have been a crazy, crazy week, obviously. Probably wouldn't have won the Millie Maker, but I had this team in a lot of their stuff as well, and probably could have ended up easily dropping 230 if Woods and Cobb had ended up having the potential shootout games, or potential games they could have had in the shootout that I was projecting in that game. But alas, that was not to be. My worst team ended up getting very low, 125. It was Ben Roethlisberger with Lindsey and AP, using Landry running back in that game, Juju, Robert Woods, Jimmy Graham at tight end. He had a touchdown called back. I had a lot of him as well. Kerryon Johnson and the Steelers D. That was fine. Kind of gaining leverage on James Conner here. I had a lot of James Conner, but where I didn't, I decided to go with him. Let me just quickly click through these teams. It's the same team, I believe, with just Cooks instead of Woods. This is probably another similar team with John Wallace instead of Cobb. It's another similar team with Odell in there. Another similar team with Odell and Cooks. Another similar team. So, I had this game stacked so many different ways. It's crazy. Double stacks. I mean, man, it could have been huge because I had the core go off with Boyd, Peterson, and James Conner. And then Steelers did fine. Then Kareem Hunt wouldn't kill you. And Jared Goff, obviously, an amazing performance at quarterback. I think he was definitely top 5 there. So, anyway, that was the week. It was fine. Could have been a lot better. I'm not going to complain about a winning week. So, yeah, other than that, hope you guys have a great day. Subscribe if you're not already. Follow me on Twitter. Links in the description down below. And please leave a like if you enjoyed.